Hi there, everybody. Welcome again. I am super pleased to be doing this fireside chat with my friend RJ Scaringe, who's the founder and CEO of Rivian, which is probably the most famous car company you've never heard of. And that's because you've been working in stealth mode these past few years. And I remember it was probably about a year and a half ago that a couple of people I know who I really respect in the automotive business and the mobility business said, there's this guy who's working in Michigan, he's really, really interesting, total stealth mode, but keep an eye on Rivian. And I went out to see you in Plymouth, Michigan, which is just outside Detroit. You're based there in Silicon Valley, also in Irvine, in Orange County. And I was blown over by what I saw. And you're coming out of stealth mode. You've been in stealth mode, well, just not that long, have you?
Yeah.
How long?
About 9 years.
9 years in stealth mode. That must be a record.
I think it probably is a record, yep.
Yeah. And I think what really kind of got me going about RJ was that someone I really respect said, well, you know RJ Scaringe, he's the Elon Musk you would want your daughter to marry. I thought I'd embarrass you and say that on stage. So he's really coming, Rivian's really coming out of stealth mode in about 10 days, and you're taking the veil off your first two models, which is, they're both electric. It's an electric car play. One is a pickup truck, and one is an SUV. Now, why the hell did you start out with a pickup truck and an SUV?
It's a great question, and I think part of the reason for us being so quiet for so long was we wanted to really develop the technology, the electrification technology, our digital platform, and simultaneously really understand this fundamental question of why we exist, and make sure the products we're building and the technology that plugs into those products maps to something that represents a true gap in the market. And when we look at the SUV space, when we look at the truck space, the products in those segments are hugely inefficient. They haven't been rethought from an architectural level in a long time. And the customers of those products are asking for it. So the number of customers that simultaneously own a GMC Denali and a BMW i3 is staggering. And what's happening is they need function. They need a way to carry their kids to soccer practice, to go to the beach, to go to the lake house. So the products we're developing and the brand positioning we're building really represents that rugged Patagonia-like positioning for mobility. And it's just a gap that exists, and we're deeply passionate about creating products that address that in a really meaningful way.
Right. Now, I mean, a few other brave souls have tried to launch new car companies. I mean, it's not something you do every day. Their success rate is really pretty abysmal, let's put it that way. It's like putting a man on the moon or a woman on the moon. So what the hell are you doing? And how do you, what is it about 2018 or, the first part of this, this decade that allows, think you have a chance? If I could put it that way.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we look at everybody here. We're in the midst of we're going to look back 10, 15, 20 years from now and say, boy, that was special. We're at the midst of a very big transition point where everything that we've known about our transportation systems, the way we power our vehicles, the way we consume our vehicles, the way those vehicles are operated, is in the beginning of a sort of a 1,000-step journey of a massive change, which means it's not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen rather quickly. And what that creates is a set of opportunities where the disadvantages of not having scale and existing production, in our view, particularly for specific segments, are outweighed by the advantages of being able to start with a clean sheet. So that was the reason I started the company, was to go after segments that we could move faster and we could put technology into vehicle types and vehicle portfolios that don't exist today.
Right. Now, you've managed to get some pretty good financing from overseas, from a little bit from Asia, from the Middle East, that really have allowed you to pursue your vision sort of with some serenity, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a big plus for you, I imagine.
Well, yeah, you commented on us being so stealth. Part of that was we weren't raising capital, so we were able to secure relatively early in the company's history a stable source of capital. Not to say that we started with hundreds of millions of dollars. It took some time to build to that. But it allowed us to be really quiet and focus first on proving out the technology and then proving out the market model in terms of meeting with customers, understanding the market gaps. And today we're about 600 people, but we've been very quiet, and that's been intentional. So as we now come out and start showing the products in about a week and a half, that begins the relatively rapid march towards start of sales, which for us is about 2 years from now.
Right. Now, RJ, another electric car company called Tesla is having issues with manufacturing at scale. So here you come along, you're even smaller than Tesla. Mm-hmm. How are you going to approach that? I mean, you have the OEMs, the big OEMs coming on stream with EVs en masse. How are you going to surmount this? How are you going to overcome this?
It's interesting. So when you think about the vehicle and all the changes that are happening, the technology, rethinking the software layer, rethinking the digital architecture, of course, rethinking the vehicle platform, electrification, those are areas where we have a distinct advantage over the incumbents because we don't have the burden of legacy. But when it comes to process around manufacturing, around launching a vehicle, the 120 years of history that's been built up, there's a lot to learn from it. So specifically because of that, we actually, as we organize the company, we put all of our technology functions here on the West Coast, as you said, split between San Jose and Irvine. And then all of our mechanical engineering, the things that essentially put the vehicle together, very close to our suppliers, just outside of Detroit, and also very close to a production facility, which we've recently purchased about a year and a half ago, a large 2.6 million square foot plant we bought from Mitsubishi. But the key is leveraging a lot of the knowledge and learnings of the past, standing on the shoulders of what the likes of Toyota and others have learned, and then embedding that into the vehicle design, and then making sure that from a process point of view, we go through the necessary gates and steps to ensure quality so the vehicles can be easily assembled.
Right. And talk a little bit about your strategy of using a common skateboard and what you're doing there. I mean, you're not the only ones doing that, but I've seen it, and it is breathtaking what you've managed to compress into that platform.
Yeah, well, from an engineering perspective, the elegance of taking the engine, the fuel tank, the aftertreatment, all the associated support systems out allows you to really rethink the vehicle platform in a way that you can embed in a level of flexibility from a mechanical point of view. So what we've built is something where you can very easily stack very different types of vehicles on top of that skateboard, and we've embedded into that a very large battery pack where it can go quite large, in our case up to today 180 kilowatt hours, but we can then of course scale that down. So we have 3 battery sizes, and then with the motor architecture we've laid out, we actually have 4 motors in the vehicle, which give us the ability to precisely control torque in any wheel, which for our vehicles, from an off-road point of view, from an on-road stability point of view, is truly transformational. The vehicle drives in many ways unlike anything else ever produced.
Well, yeah, walk me through that. What is that actually like? I mean, let's say you have the vehicle, it's in a narrow road, you come up to something that's blocking the road. What can it actually do?
Yeah, so we have 4 motors that control each individual wheel. So we get torque vectoring, which is great off-road, also great on-road. We have an off-road feature, which we really enjoy, where you can actually spin the vehicle on its axis. We call it tank steer, because it steers like a tank. So the vehicle can spin essentially on its axis. And it's something you, of course, couldn't do with a mechanical differential or a traditional powertrain.
Just tell me a little bit about the price point.
So the vehicle has a range of price points that tie to the battery size. Our largest pack being 180 kilowatt hours. That's a 440 mile range vehicle. That's our most expensive. And then we have a 105 kilowatt hour pack, which starts at just over $60,000. But it's embedded with a level of performance on and off road that truly is different than any of the trucks or SUVs in the market today.
Okay. And what's your view, what's the Rivian view on autonomy? Are you developing a full stack autonomy offer?
Yeah.
How is that, how much resources are you devoting to that?
Well, it's a great question, particularly given the context of what we're seeing today. It's in many ways one of the most challenging questions, I think, for all of us, in that we have to design businesses that can work simultaneously in the world of today. In our case, we launched in 2020, so in the world of 2020. But also make sure that the technology, the organizational core competencies, the brand position, the product portfolio line up to the world of 2040. So what we're building in our launch vehicles is a level 3 platform, meaning on highway you can take your hands off wheel, eyes off road, you can go on your iPad, you can go on your phone, but it's a highway-only feature. For us, the brand position around this adventure, this ability to go out and see the world, that positioning transcends the steering wheel, transcends ownership, such that as we go into level 4, level 5 applications, we want to be the answer in 2030 of how you're going skiing for the weekend. It won't necessarily be something that you own, it's not necessarily something that you drive, but it still takes you on that adventure. So for us, we've built capabilities in-house for level 3 and some really cool level 4-ish features for off-road or adventure settings. But in terms of a level 4 plus or level 5 stack, we're working with partners.
Right. Speaking about working with partners, I mean, you have, obviously, there's a strong B2C model. You were selling direct to consumers, et cetera. But you're also going to be working with other partners to maybe who will produce cars not under the Rivian brand. Is that correct?
Exactly. One of the really beautiful things about rethinking the vehicle platform and the vehicle architecture is you can actually share this skateboard with very different applications. And historically, vehicles were differentiated around their powertrain, so a customer could feel the difference between let's say, a Porsche engine and a Ferrari engine. But as we look at our battery pack, the requirements of that, high energy density, great health management, the ability to manage the thermal condition of the back regardless of ambient temperatures, those are things that are the same whether it's delivering goods, delivering people, or in a premium or aspirational vehicle like ours. So we have some very interesting B2B applications of our skateboard, and that makes up a pretty significant part of our business as well.
Right. So will you be announcing some of these partnerships pretty soon? Or?
Yeah, sometime next year we're going to be announcing some exciting partnerships.
I'll be looking out for that.
Yeah.
And when you go beyond the SUV and the pickup, are you going to be looking at a Rivian? Is there a Rivian coupe down the line, a convertible?
Yeah, John's seen some of the future products. Essentially, the goal is to keep the tight brand identity around adventure. So there'll be different form factors, and as we move out into our 4th and 5th product, the form factors start to change really quite profoundly, but still targeting active lifestyles. So vehicles that can carry your kids, your gear, your stuff, your pets, as opposed to vehicles that are a bit more what we would think of as presentational. So they're more Patagonia than they are Armani.
Right. Now you have 3 centers of the company essentially: Midwest, Irvine, San Jose. I mean, how big are you? How big is Rivian?
So we've got about 600 employees, almost equal split between the West Coast and Detroit area. And the reason for that, we had an interesting decision as we started to scale up is, do we want to put everything in one place and get the obvious benefits of easier communication, but then the challenges of very different skill sets that, if you're in the Midwest, you'd have a hard time pulling in technology talent, and if you're here, the manufacturing and supply chain talent really has to be transplanted from the Midwest. So we took the decision to split into a multi-nodal development structure, which has worked, after some growing pains, beautifully. So we now have teams that work seamlessly across these different locations, and it allows us to access the best talent within the supply chain and manufacturing domain, and then simultaneously the best talent within the electrical hardware and software domain.
And what do you have here in Southern California? I mean, I went to visit your, maybe you could talk about that for just a minute.
So here, not far from where we are now in Irvine, we have a beautiful battery lab where we not only develop all of our battery control systems, we do a lot of cell characterization and develop really complex mathematical representations of how cells behave under various conditions. And that all feeds into a battery management system that's actually smart, meaning it actually learns how you drive and then adjusts all the parameters that characterize how the pack operates. So what we've done is we've extracted essentially all the semi-independent or orthogonal parameters to control health of the pack. And that's being done in Irvine along with a pilot line that builds battery systems for all of our prototype vehicles and some of our early B2B customers.
Right. When did you start falling in love with cars? I mean, what is it, how old were you? Were you 13 or 10 or?
Yeah, maybe this tall. I've been working on cars. I did classic car restorations starting when I was maybe 10.
Wow. In Florida, you grew up.
Grew up in Florida, restored lots of classic Porsches and Volkswagens, and decided I wanted to go into it as a field of study.
Yeah. And how old were you when you? I think you were accepted at Stanford.
Yep.
You went to Stanford for about
A day.
a day, and then turned them down and went to
MIT.
MIT.
Yeah. Yeah.
How old were you when you got to MIT?
I was 22.
22. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was in a graduate program.
Yeah, for my PhD.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. I don't even know how I can be up here talking to you, but okay. But you are very approachable, and
Oh, thank you, John.
I really wish you luck, and I can't wait to see the unveiling on the 26th
26, yeah. So we
of
have a
November.
live
People
stream.
look at it.
Yeah,
look
from
out for
Griffith
it.
Park, we're going to be showing our first vehicle, the reimagined pickup, and then the 27th, we show the SUV.
Okay. I wish you luck, man.
Thanks so much, John.
Take care.